Today's mystic that we have invited is one of my favorites. Some of you know I've talked about him quite a bit, but his name is Walt Whitman. And I find he is one of the only Western mystics that has reached that same depth of knowing and understanding and the sense of freedom that he derives from that knowing and understanding of the soul. But he was quite a bit misunderstood. To understand a mystic of that depth requires someone's availability of the heart and the mind. So even though he's taught in high school courses, his poems are shared in college courses, but he's more known as a literary master. But if you receive the depth of his words today, you will know what I'm talking about. Okay, so here we go. I know I am deathless. I know this orbit of mine cannot be swept by a carpenter's compass. I do not trouble my spirit to vindicate itself or to be understood. I see that the elementary laws never apologize. I exist as I am. That is enough. If no other in the world be aware, I sit content. And if each and all be aware, I sit content. One word is aware, and by far the largest to me, and that is myself. Whether I come to my own today, or in 10,000 or 10 million years, I can cheerfully take it now, or with equal cheerfulness, I can wait. The pleasures of heaven are with me, and the pains of hell are with me. The first I graft and increase upon myself. The latter I translate into a new language. Every word, every line is dripping with that consciousness of the spirit witnessing life and itself. So that very first line, I know I am deathless. How many of you can say that with the clarity and the surety with which his words are revealing themselves? I know I am deathless. Do you know you're deathless? Yes, you've read about it. You would like to say that. That's a big part of the spiritual journey, to say I'm deathless. But do you know? Do you realize it? Do you live that realization of deathlessness? I guarantee you that 80% of your day, your waking day, is riddled with fear of death. Every single time that you experience anxiety is already spent in fear of death. So in that moment, you don't know you're deathless. In that moment, you fear death. There's this beautiful saying in the Shastras, the Vedic Shastras. It says, God of death appears to the delusional as fear, which means every fear that we have, every fear. Notice how many fears are residing in your life based in attachment, like people you are attached to, your children, your parents, your spouse, your partner, your friends, your pets. Every single attachment that you have, the moment that attachment gets formed, immediately the fear of losing that attachment also gets created. Fear of failure, fear of embarrassment, fear of survival, fear of not being loved. The list goes on and on. If you were all in a class with me right now, we would have made a nice long list of all the fears that each one of us carries within us. And to the extent we are carrying these fears, to that same degree, we are not alive. To know that we are deathless, for someone to arrive at that realization, you have to be so fully alive in the first place. So for most of you listening to this, yes, as wonderful as this line sounds, that I am deathless, for each one of us to arrive at that space will take so much work in turning around and facing each one of our fears, from understanding how to work with our attachments, to know what is the purpose of our attachments, to know when we need to unattach or detach from something, And the moment you detach or unattach, when the role is done, when the purpose of that attachment is completed, the moment you do that, you become free of the fear. I was working with somebody the other day who shared that she had spent most of the day crying in panic over her dear beloved German Shepherd dog passing away because he's getting close to that age. Nothing's happening to him right now. But maybe in 4 or 5 years, there's a lifespan to all of our lives. She's anticipating that will happen, and her entire life is in panic right now. And as we dug in a little more deeper, we understood that it seems like this soul, this entity, this relationship was the only place where she could find safety of being, where this was one being that gave her love without rejection, without manipulation. One place where she felt safe, one relationship that she felt safe in. So her entire identity was deposited in that attachment. And if that attachment goes away, she is unanchored, she is displaced again in this world. And so notice that all of these fears have roots somewhere. And so if you want to arrive at this space of I am deathless, you will have to dig in and uncover some of your fears. And that in itself is a lifetime of work. To know that you are deathless, you have to see and experience existence through the sight and the light of your soul, which is eternal. When you are living life from the lens of this finite self, your attachments, your needs, your wants, your desires, in all those moments, you will find yourself riddled with fear. But we have both these lenses available to us. The lens that Walt Whitman has been using is the lens of the soul, and that's how he lived. I don't know how many of you have known about him, but he would just travel all over America. He would just travel at the time that America was just developing. The railroads were still forming, and he would just be in awe of human capacity. He would be in awe of the misery that our human capabilities are devising for others and are able to handle and be resilient towards in our own lives. I mean, those were pretty tough times. But seeing everything from the eyes of the soul, he could understand the entire play. So he says, I know I am deathless. I know this orbit of mine cannot be swept by a carpenter's compass. When he's talking about this orbit, this is lifetimes of eternal orbits, like this finite existence of how many ever years. Let's say you live to be 112 years, right? That is finite. There is some way that somebody's memory, somebody can write your history, your memoir, and that compass can scan the entire trajectory of your living years. But what about the larger orbit of your soul? What about the larger orbit of your spirit? Who has known how far they have traveled? Who has known everything that you have experienced? Come into form and back to dust, and back into form and back to dust. Who knows how long that has gone on and how big that orbit is? And that's why he says, this orbit of mine cannot be swept by a carpenter's compass. A carpenter can measure things, but there's no measuring device that can measure the journey of the soul. That is why he says, I do not trouble my spirit to vindicate itself or be understood. Who are we trying to prove ourselves to? Have you ever paused to ask yourself that question? You wake up, the first moment begins with trying to, but in his words, vindicate yourself, prove yourself worthy of life. Who do we want to prove ourselves to? Are you still trying to prove yourself to the people who raised you, your earliest caregivers, the people who never believed in you? Are you trying to prove yourself to them? Are you trying to prove yourself to the people who did believe in you? So you have to now keep up with that. Are you trying to prove yourself to your spouse, your partner, your friends, your coworkers, your neighbors, your children? Or are you trying to prove yourself to yourself? And if you are trying to prove yourself to yourself, which self are you trying to prove yourself to? What is that measurement? I do not trouble my spirit to vindicate itself or to be understood. Power of these words is so immense. Notice the more you are trying to prove yourself to someone, want someone to understand you, the more conflict appears within you, the more troubled your spirit becomes, the more anxious you become. I see that the elementary laws never apologize. And that's one reason he says, I don't try to vindicate myself, because the elementary laws of cause and effect, yes, in our Sanskrit terms, in the Vedic terms, we call it karma and dharma, right? Same thing in the Buddhist. It's karma and dharma. These are some basic fundamental laws that applies to everyone, irrespective of somebody wanting to believe in it or not. So whatever your life circumstances are appearing in front of you, whatever suffering or adversity that you might be going through or I went through, these are all part of the fundamental laws that are creating the mandalas or the blueprints of our life. And within that, within the boundaries of that, we get to play and experience in our existence. So what is there to prove to anyone? How can anyone understand you? Because they don't have the same dharma, or they don't have the same blueprint of their existence. They can only gauge you from a place of their own projection, from a place of their understanding of themselves. So he says, I see that the elementary laws never apologize. Has life ever apologized to you for presenting to you your set of struggles? No, it's unapologetic, because they are perfectly set up for you. And your life, as it unfolds within those laws, is perfectly meant for your awareness, not for anyone else. And if you can understand this, if you can grok this, you will feel liberated. You will feel free from the clutches, from those imprisoning chains of other people's opinions. Do you know how strongly each one of us is bound in those chains? They're invisible. We feel its constriction, but we can't see their physicality. It's almost we are forced to act with the pull of those chains. We are enslaved to it. But how liberating are these lines? I exist as I am. That is enough. If no other in the world be aware, I sit content. And if each and all be aware, I sit content. Thank you for staying in those words with me. So this affliction that we have in the modern day social media directed world, where we're all comparing each other, again, invisibly, quietly, subtly, we're all comparing each other. Even possibly the levels of successes and non-successes, I won't call them failures, non-successes. Or maybe the pace at which we are growing. And if it's in the spiritual world, I hear that all the time, people comparing themselves with each other and saying, all these people seem to be growing so fast and they're moving ahead and they are having all these awarenesses and I'm not having anything. Whatever layer you are in your life, material or spiritual, wherever you find yourself, if that presence of comparison sits with you, the idea of success or failure based on where somebody else is, then hear these words again. Your soul exists perfectly as it is. That is enough. For it to be alive and experiencing whatever it is experiencing today, whatever it is experiencing, simply allow it to experience. And that is enough. That is success for the soul. And if no one, not another person in this entire world is aware of your internal process, the little tiny awarenesses and ahas and evolutions that are taking place within you, and if no one knows of those movements in the entire world, sit content. Maybe everybody knows about it. Maybe something you wrote has become supremely powerful. A video you made has gone viral. Even then, if you find conflict, if you find turmoil, if you find anxiety, you've gone off the contentment. You've gone off the purpose of the soul. And that contentment is the indication that the soul experience that it wanted to have is fulfilled. That is the litmus test through which you measure your own movement through your life. But one world, he says, is aware. So if no one else is aware, no problem. There's one world that is aware of what I am, and by far the largest, the most important to me. And that is myself with a capital S. Whether I come to my own today or in 10,000 or 10 million years, I can cheerfully take it now, or with equal cheerfulness, I can wait. So this process of coming to yourself means fulfilling your life experiences. Whatever your soul wants to experience, you allow that experience to happen. But all those fears, all those mini deaths, don't allow you to have those experiences. So it actually slows the progress of you coming to yourself. And that self is simply a witness that sits within you. And it's constantly aware of where you are in this journey. But it's not judging anything. It's extremely patient. And he says that one world is aware. I don't care if anyone else in this world is aware, because I know the only one that truly matters, whose awareness of me matters, is the one that sits within me. And if I fulfill that journey today, right now, in this instant, or it takes me 10,000 years or 10 million years, however long it takes me, I'm okay with that. So this FOMO thing that that is literally, a real thing that is causing so much mental upset, mental illness, emotional illness. The fear of missing out, the constant anxiety of trying to get wherever you're trying to get super fast. Take a moment, just set it aside, put it next to you and say, honey, it's okay. There is no rush. This being that sits within me is not rushing me. It's been waiting for me for eons without any repercussion. It's not punishing me. There's no consequence to that. It's simply watching and observing your process. So however long it takes you to get to yourself, however far you feel from yourself, there is no problem. Whenever you get there, take it with equal cheerfulness. If you come to that place today, it'll be the same celebration as if you get to it 10 million years from now, 10 million incarnations from now. The pleasures of heaven are with me, and the pains of hell are with me. Do you resonate? You feel that both live within you? We had a men's retreat going on this weekend, and they were doing some really deep work, which I'm so grateful, because men need to do some deep work and have a community of men around them that supports each other. And so after they were doing this deep work, I was feeding them, serving them through food. And they took this one wonderful guy, he took a bite, closed his eyes, and he goes, oh, this is heaven. This is heaven. And the gratitude that got expressed through his eyes was so immense, as if I had given him a pot of gold. So that one tiny moment of experiencing heaven in a bite of food, nourishment, of love, a moment of somebody just wraps their arms around us. Maybe you wrap your arm around yourself. Allow yourself to feel these tiny, minute moments of heaven that reside within you, just waiting for you to experience them. And he says, the pains of hell are with me as well. Your struggles, your sufferings, they're all meaningful. Or at least you can decide to make your suffering meaningful. Or you can decide to make your suffering futile. It's really up to you, but they all sit with you. And that's why he says, the first I graft upon myself. Pleasures of heaven I'm going to graft on myself. And the latter I translate into a new language. The sufferings, the adversity that I have experienced, I will just translate them into the language of the soul and see what lessons reside within them. And the moment you receive that lesson, that suffering, that hell becomes heaven magically. So hopefully these words brought to life some of those areas in your own world that might have been experiencing lifelessness. That is really the beauty of receiving these messages from these masters, is they enliven their words, even if they lived so long ago. Those words are so alive with their soul's truths that when we hear them, when we consume them, all those places that we have deadened in our own life, they come back to life. Sit with these words, let them clear out all those places of fear from your life and create that contentment. And maybe one day you will be sitting with all of us and saying, I just sit content wherever I am. Satam.